Film doesn't lie. Andrew Krammer, 23-6. Vikings lose to the Packers on Sunday. It just feels like this is a continuation of a conversation we've been having for weeks now where, rewinding the film of the Vikings season, if we're going to, use the film review as a metaphor, like rewinding back to the point where they were 4-4 when 2 out of the 3 J.J. McCarthy starts had felt at least passable in terms of like how you might expect him to play as a rookie, the ups and downs, but making enough plays in the win at the Bears and certainly in the win over the Lions to say, okay, you see enough there.
Mm-hmm.
So like 2 of the first 3 starts feeling like, okay, working out some bugs, but like ever since then, it's been this cascade of downhill for him where the offense just doesn't look functional 85 to 90% of the time, and certainly maybe even more than that against the Packers because they had 4 yards of offense in the second half.
Yeah, so much so I think was it Greg Olson on the broadcast said this is one of the worst halves of football I've seen.
It was Joe Davis that said that, and and Greg Olson agreed that this is just really bad ball or something like that. But both of them were just like, and he was calling into question like the entire like thing, the whole like operation, and just like where do they go from here kind of stuff.
And that's what it feels like. It does feel like this is Kevin O'Connell as a play caller, the whole staff as an offense trying to figure out what can McCarthy do well, like what can they turn to, and it just doesn't feel like they have those answers right now, and they're searching for them. And week to week, it seems to change what he can do well and what he can't. And in terms of like things like, well, he'll hit the opening throw, the 15-yarder to Jefferson over the middle. And he'll be able to hit some quick throws and kind of make some plays off schedule. There was a couple examples of that in this game too. But then there'll be moments where they'll go back to things that have worked in the past, and he'll just kind of move off them. And there was one where he left Jefferson open on a corner route on 3rd and 9 that he has a clean pocket and he's just not feeling the pressure that, or he sees ghosts or whatever it is, feels pressure that's not there and ends up dumping it down to Hawkinson and it goes nowhere. So it's stuff like that where. And then you're seeing the easy button throws get taken away too, where like the defenses, Green Bay seemed pretty aggressive to just trigger downhill and attack those quick throws. And that's what happens when you can't even hit the counters off of those quick throws. Like there was back-to-back times against the Lions and Ravens in the past month where they tried to do a fake screen that led to a Hawkinson kind of leak down the sideline that was supposed to be a 15, 20-yard throw. And one time McCarthy missed the read, and then the other time he totally missed the throw, and they haven't even gone back to that. And if you're not putting fakes or counters to the quick throws that you're doing, defenses don't need to respect the potential, dupe or the misdirection that you might throw their way. And so it's just easy to take that stuff away. And I think Javon Bullard, the Packers safety on one of McCarthy's early throws, just like face guarded Jordan Addison on a screen, ends up blocking the pass with his back.
I remember that play. Yeah.
If he had turned around, that's a pick six. Like that's a more catastrophic play if he's not playing it the way that he's probably coached to, which is just face guard the receiver and stop that completion. So it's stuff like that where, like, what do you do if you're Kevin O'Connell? If you can't trust McCarthy to have the confidence to stand in the pocket and fire a 15, 20-yard corner route on 3rd down, and you can't do the short quick throws because defenses are jumping everything downhill, and you can't have him turn his back on play action very often because when he turns around, he's not seeing the field correctly. Some of it feels like yips. Some of it feels like a coaching staff that's lost with a lost quarterback. And then you just have a veteran team around him that's just very frustrated right now.
Single wing, triple option. I mean, these are things that are still within their reach, Andrew. The play you just referenced brings me to 2 points. One is that you have to have the wherewithal, and Cousins drove me crazy with this sometimes too, and he was a veteran when he got here. Like, not understanding that the play has been blown up and you have to go somewhere else. Like sometimes quarterbacks will just like lock in, like, oh, we've got this, we got this short play we're supposed to execute right now, but we can't because, something happened, and then they still do it. That drives me crazy. So I don't understand why that happens, but it does.
No, it does. It does. And with young quarterbacks, especially, I mean, McCarthy's just doesn't seem to be seeing the field well at all. Cousins, I think, had the risk aversion that kind of had to be worked out of him with Justin Jefferson. And that was still a problem that crept up from time to time. We see it with Sam Darnold now in Seattle, where there's going to be those bad plays, those "what are you doing" moments that each quarterback has, unless you're Patrick Mahomes or something. Even he has them too. I shouldn't say that. So, but McCarthy's just a different animal. Like, this kid's so raw, so inexperienced, seems to be regressing in certain areas of his game that it's just baffling. This is the second time in a row now, second week in a row, that he had a horrific third quarter. This time it was 0 for 5 against the Bears before the final drive. And this time he was sacked on 3 of his 5 dropbacks in the third quarter. And some of those are just him not getting the ball out, having no pocket feel, like just being a statue, like cement footed. And just watch other quarterbacks. Watch Jordan Love in that game. Watch Brock Purdy. Watch any number of guys who make subtle little movements to help their offensive line out that are so critical in today's NFL against ferocious pass rushes and very talented defensive linemen. So he's just not helping his guys out. And then when the little few times that they don't help him, it comes back to bite because of how thin the margin is, because he's playing. Look it up. He's playing the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. His completion percentage is 34th out of 34. His adjusted net yards per attempt is the same, 34th out of 34 qualified quarterbacks. His teammate Carson Wentz in 5 starts has outperformed him in everything. I would venture to guess that if Carson Wentz were still healthy right now, he might be playing because of how poorly McCarthy has been doing right now. At some point, this needs to become about saving a young kid who just doesn't look like he should be out there right now.
Which is, I want to get back to that point in a minute, but which is a huge miscalculation, right? Because they thought he was ready. They built a team around him. They had other options at quarterback. They could have said, you know what, you could use another year to cook, and let's bring back Sam Darnold. Or if Sam Darnold doesn't want to come back, let's say Daniel Jones. Okay, this is a competition, but you're probably going to win this competition. Stay here instead of going to Indianapolis, where he thought they must have given him indications that this was McCarthy's job and he'd be a backup until proven otherwise here, for him to want to go to Indianapolis. So this was a miss so far in terms of their evaluation of where he is, if that's the case. Another point, though, going back to that kind of that missed short completion. So what I have been having a hard time wrapping my head around is, how does McCarthy seem like he's getting worse as time is going on? But some of that, to what you just said, could be explained by, okay, he's put a few games on tape. Now people know what he does well. They know what he struggles with. So they're starting to take away the only things that he does well. And now he's got, the easy buttons are going away. So it's like, okay, how does he adjust to that? So maybe that explains some of this.
Some of it, yeah, that explains some of it. That doesn't explain the yip-like inaccuracy that has been creeping up over the last few weeks, where it's just open guys he's just missing. And this wasn't so bad. This game felt like Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings really put him in a box. Like, we're going to go out, run the ball, clock control. I thought the blocking and the run game were very, very good up until the second half, when you start losing more offensive linemen to injury. The special teams turnover leads to the 17-6 point differential. And then from there, the game was totally lost. But initially, it felt like they really didn't try to do too much with McCarthy. It felt like, let's keep him in a box, don't ask too much of him. And he made some decent throws at times. He only made 2 of them in terms of completions over 10 yards, but both of them were good throws. There's a 19-yarder on the hurry up before halftime to Jefferson, where it was like the rare example of a layered throw over a defender to Jefferson, who snatches that thing out of the air, like we've seen a million times with quarterbacks. So it's there. You see the flashes from him, but it's just, you can't consistently rely on it. So this offense is severely limited. And so you get to 3rd and 1, and they finally run the ball, except it's the QB sneak with TJ Hawkinson, not with McCarthy. And then they hand off on 4th down, and that goes nowhere too. Where on 4th down, Brian O'Neill just totally whiffs his block. Like, what are you supposed to do there when your Pro Bowl right tackle is doing that? So again, when you can't rely on a play action fake in that moment, and you feel so boxed into running against a wall, like we've been begging them to do, I find that the right process for the current quarterback that they have. But those are the results you have to live with when you just need to move mountains as an offensive line to do anything, because your quarterback's not doing much for you.
Can't decide if the TJ Hawkinson quarterback sneak has replaced the Nick Mullins, Brandon Powell tush push as my least favorite 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 play, or if it just merely didn't work. But it seems like they practiced it. They said they practiced it, but practice is not the same as games. Like, apparently McCarthy looks great in practice. I'm sure the screen pass they threw, the quick game, I'm sure it worked in practice because they didn't tell the guy to jump the route. Like, things are different in a real game.
Yeah, and when you go back and watch the Hawkinson thing too, I thought that was TJ's fault. He picks where he wants to go before the snap because of the gap in the Packers alignment, yet it gets filled late by a linebacker who crashes in, and then he doesn't go the other way, which actually would have worked had he just gone left instead of right. Anyway, I wanted to make the point too with McCarthy that you talked about the film and all those things. Like it doesn't explain the yips, but it does explain things like you're seeing now defenses like Jeff Hafley did this with his edge rushers, where he started dropping them under some of the out routes that J.J. McCarthy likes to throw. Those are the tendencies that get built up when Kevin O'Connell realizes my quarterback isn't confident throwing over the middle with the timing necessary. We need to hit a bunch of out routes. Defenses start flaring those edge rushers out. And there was a play where McCarthy, I think it was 3rd and 12, just locked onto his first read Addison, despite the edge rusher dropping underneath him on a quick out route. He just kind of looks at him, and it was only like maybe a second or two too long, but that's all it takes, because then he looked back to his right and he totally misses Jalen Nailor going deep. And that was the play where he like Brett Favre flicked it to TJ for like 4 yards on the right side. And that's one where if he was quicker in his processing, he has that extra second to look down the middle of the field and see Nailor coming open against what was a split safety coverage. Totally misses that opportunity, that throw, 4-yard check down on 3rd and long, Vikings punt. So that's just the kind of stuff they're living with when, if they're not going to run for every first down, I'm not too sure what they're going to do.
Well, and it's hard because it's not one thing, right? He's late on his reads sometimes. The pre-snap stuff feels fine, but he's late on his reads. But then also there's the mechanics where he's just simply like missing throws. Like the second interception was just an overthrow. He stepped too far into it. He threw it kind of, it looked like his balance was all off, and he just sailed it by a few yards, and that's all it takes to be picked off instead of completed. So it's like even if he gets through his progressions and makes an okay read, sometimes the throw itself is bad. Like where do you go from here? What do you do with that? Because we've all been saying, hey, he's got to play through this. You got to find out the rest of the year. But is there a detriment point at a certain point where you're like, okay, like maybe he has to sit down for a few more games just to figure this out? Do you try Brosmer? If Brosmer's good, does it then serve as a further indictment of McCarthy? Like I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah, I saw there's a respected film kind of breakdown writer, Doug Farrar, used to work for USA Today. He wrote a column about how like the Panthers benched Bryce Young last year because he needed it, and the Vikings should do the same with McCarthy. And I think that's an apt point, and one that I've kind of referenced here in terms of if Carson Wentz were healthy, they don't have an option. Like, is Kevin O'Connell going to potentially ruin Max Brosmer over 6 games or even 1 game, give him a bad experience because he's not ready, just to sit down JJ McCarthy? Like, you don't have somebody you can turn to and say, you know what, we feel good about this guy for 6 games. You have no idea what you would get out of Max Brosmer in a single start. You don't know what you're getting on a JJ McCarthy right now either, but at least he's the exposed one. You might as well just leave him exposed if I'm thinking how Kevin O'Connell might. We do know, and I do know O'Connell does think there is a point that a quarterback should not be out there. I don't know that he's at that point with McCarthy, but I'd venture to guess it's getting close if it's not already there. The problem is they have nobody to turn to. Carson Wentz is hurt.
They got Wolford, right? I mean, they could just throw him in there.
Well, he just showed up, 3 weeks ago? I mean, yeah, you're right.
Carson Wentz, when he played, he had only been here for a few weeks. I don't know. Like, it's a mess. It's a mess. But if you don't want to ruin Brosmer, if that's part of the conversation, or you don't want to show that it's all McCarthy's fault by having a undrafted rookie come in and look more competent than him, you could play Wolford. I mean, the season's already lost. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you that they don't have a good option, right?
No,
there's not really a good option.
All their good options are playing for other teams.
Yeah. So with McCarthy, it seems to me like they're going to ride this out with him and just see how this goes. But it feels like you've probably seen enough at this point to know that going into the offseason, there's going to need to be some major questions about the long-term outlook of the position, and certainly a new fix for the short-term outlook in 2026, because you can't, even if McCarthy showed you incremental improvement over these next 6 games, I don't know how you trust it as something that's like, yep, week 1 starter for next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, we'll move on to some other phases quickly here. I mean, it wasn't just on the offense. The momentum turning play, probably for a 3rd straight week, was on special teams. And, twice it's involved Miles Price, the fumble against the Ravens that really started to change that game around. Last week, it was the long kick return. It wasn't Miles Price. That one wasn't Miles Price's fault. But this one, again, he tries to get guys out of the way, but, gets blocked into the punt. That's a 10-6 game at that point. I don't think the Vikings win that game anyway with the way they're moving the ball, but that's ball game almost right there because of what O'Connell acknowledges as the razor thin margins they're playing with when they can't score on offense.
Yeah, you're totally right. And we go back to, I mean, you mentioned when they were 4-4, that was right after the Detroit Lions win, correct?
When they made tons of plays on special teams. They
Exactly.
blocked the field goal. They had a long kick return.
Yep. So that's that was why I brought it up, to just say that, like, yeah, they played well at times, and it's been the major difference maker. And when they don't play well on special teams, yeah, the margin is so poor because you do not have a passing offense right now. You're playing like it's 1980s, 1970s football, the dead ball era. So I don't know what you do, because yeah, special teams wise, you need to be perfect. You're seeing guys pressing. The coaching staff is talking about that and saying, like, look, these guys are trying to make plays for this team because they know we need them. And it's actually costing them because they're getting out of position and doing, making just poor decisions in general. So this one was one where, yeah, Miles Price probably should have fair caught that, but he's thinking it's going to roll into the end zone. If you watch that ball and the way it bounced all day and the way they punted it, that thing was getting a perfect bounce back, the perfect kind of, I don't even know what the technical term is, but it was bouncing back into play the way that the Packers wanted it. Price probably should have just fair caught it. There was a coaching error on special teams too, where Ivan Pace runs off the field at one point on that field goal that cost them a timeout, which, ultimately doesn't cost them much of anything. But if they needed a timeout, they weren't going to have it, because Pace, which I thought Pace thought he was the 12th guy and just accidentally ran off. He goes, no, I was told by a coach to come off, and I'm not sure why, because I was supposed to be out there.
He was the 11th. Yeah, they on the broadcast, they were like counting them all up. It's like, oh, no, that's only 11. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, and so you're thinking, is that Pace? And Pace says, no, I was told to do that, which is a more egregious error, in my opinion, that a coach on the sideline miscounted and is telling, I'm not sure if that was Matt Daniels or an assistant. I don't know who that would have been, but it cost them a timeout. And it's just stuff like that you cannot have happen for a team and a coaching staff that's been together fairly long, a very veteran group that's been together fairly long, that's trying to guide some young players on special teams. So, yeah, it was just another egregious error that you can't afford to have. And that blocked the turnover right out of the third quarter there sets up the 17-6, which I think we were in press row and we turned to each other and we're like, well, that's kind of ball game right there.
Yeah, even though it's only 2 scores, like that's how you feel about the offense right now. And the Green Bay defense is very good. So it's it's a combination of those things, because they overcame 17-6 in week 1 against the Bears. That feels like forever ago now. But yeah, when the special teams is making mistakes, and then the defense, again, you're not pinning this all on the defense. They played reasonably well. They had the short field. 23 points isn't that bad, especially when you give up that short field. But again, they lose the turnover battle 3-0. Like O'Connell keeps referencing this, but like, you can't keep doing that. Like, they're not taking the ball away. They're not getting any of these, punch outs, or everybody is playing very vanilla because they know they don't have to be explosive against you to win.
Yeah, watch or go to NFL Next Gen Stats, pull up Jordan Love's passing chart. I mean, he didn't need to do much of any. I thought he was really good, but he was dinking and dunking the whole time.
Yeah.
And the Vikings make you play on this kind of, to use the phrase again, just the razor thin edge of, like, they put so much pressure on you. They bring blitzers. They do all these things, the Flores stuff that we all know. And it kind of forces you to, if they're generating that pressure like they did, it forces you to throw a ball right over the outstretched arms of Eric Wilson. It forces you to make passes off your back foot like Jordan Love had to do. Jalen Redmond did bat a ball down at the line of scrimmage. Isaiah Rodgers did deflect a pass to Luke Musgrave. Those are the only times, though, that they really got hands on passes. Oftentimes Love was making a great throw. Like, there was the second drive, I think it was the one that was the touchdown drive for them. There might have been the first drive. He was looking guys off in zone coverage like incredibly well. Like, there was one where Byron Murphy's staring him down on 3rd down and just kind of floats away from Christian Watson, and then Love snaps back and throws to Watson for 12 yards. There was another one to Dontavian Wicks, the 18-yard catch and run to the 1-yard line that set up the touchdown.
Yeah.
Eric Wilson gets totally duped, and Love kind of no-looks it. It's like a partial look where he's looking, kind of toward the goalpost, but then throws to the sideline on that side of the field. And Wilson jumps a route that is not being run by anybody. He's just jumping into a vision lane by Jordan Love and then leaves open Wicks on that side of the field. So that's excellent quarterback play for like a stat in a box score that you're going to look at and be like, it wasn't that great. He didn't have to do a whole lot. He did to move the chains, because it wasn't until the second quarter, it was that 14-play, 68-yard field goal drive that they then started to really run the ball. Like, that was the time where I'm looking at it like there was an 11-yard run and a 7-yard run where Javon Hargrave at nose is just getting kind of walled out and pushed down. Like, they've had so many issues as a run defense. I think it's 6 of the last 8 games they've given up 130 plus on the ground. And when they have edge issues like they've had, they try to allocate more resources there and players there, but then they're not getting the play they need from the interior guys that they paid. And it's kind of the same story that we've been telling every week.
Same story we've been telling every week. And then next week, we get to tell the story of J.J. McCarthy goes to Seattle, and we get to watch Sam Darnold against this defense. That will be fun, Andrew.
There's no storylines there that we need to pay attention to.
No, we're all good there. nothing to see here. Definitely not a what if. Like, listen, though, most of us were on board, right? Like, I was on board. Like, hey, we saw how this ended last season. Like, we judged Sam Darnold as having had a very good year. Can he duplicate it? And even if he can, is he a guy that's going to win you the ultimate prize? And I still think the jury's out on that question. I think he's had a very good year. So I still don't think we can second guess the plan. We can second guess the execution and who they chose to call out that plan, though.
Yeah. And if you're second guessing, the only ability the Vikings had to lock Darnold in was to franchise tag him. Yeah. And so you're second guessing then them choosing to steal $40 million in spending dollars that they wanted to put around their young quarterback, which is the bet that they ultimately made. And maybe you can second guess them not bringing in Aaron Rodgers for $30 million less. He reportedly wanted to play for $10 million or whatever it was. And that was what you paid Sam Darnold the previous year. So that's more the one that us as reporters kind of talk among each other. Like, maybe, it would have come with a whole host of questions and things every week to talk about. But that's the one where you're like, okay, you could have maybe brought him in. But remember at Super Bowl Media Row back in February, J.J. McCarthy did an interview where he said, all I want is a fair shot at the starting job. And I think bringing back Sam Darnold, tagging him, or bringing in Aaron Rodgers would not have been giving him that fair shot. So you would have been asking the Vikings to commit to someone else instead of him, because those weren't insurance policies. Those are
1-year starters. Yeah, those are 1-year starters.
And you would have been telling JJ in March, you're going to sit down, and they wouldn't have said, all right, we're just going to wait another year of your rookie contract window, and we'll punt on that and just develop you behind the scenes. I think they had high hopes for what they just did with Sam Darnold. They had high hopes for what they could do at the quarterback position. Going back and looking at Kwesi's comments in June on our very Access Vikings podcast, he said, I have a lot of confidence he used the phrase quarterback incubator, referring to Kevin O'Connell, the coaching staff, Josh McCown. They bet on themselves. And this is a bet that obviously they did not win this year.
Not so far. All right, Andrew. Appreciate all the thorough breakdowns as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, Mike. Thanks.